If any guest on our show will ever define the standard of excellence we speak about, then it is our next guest. In over 3 decades in the automotive industry, and having placed millions of dollars worth of loans, and more importantly, my most valued possession, my clients and customers, with this financial institution. If you've been around as many years as I've been, you may remember the days when you could walk into your banker, sit down and talk with them, and you knew they really cared about you. One still does. Pay close attention to this segment, and you will never need another one. Quite possibly the proudest moment I will ever have on this show is to introduce to you Jim Hunting, President of Sierra Pacific Federal Credit Union. And Jim, thank you so much for being on our show today. It feels like yesterday we first started doing business together, but it's been a few years.
It has been a few years, Mitch, and I want to thank you for having me on. Very nice introduction. Thank you very much. The CarBuyer Advisor, I think, is a wonderful idea and a very groundbreaking. People buy homes, they buy cars. The car is generally the second largest purchase that anyone's going to make in their lifetime, and you do it on average every 3 years. And knowledge, just as you said, knowledge beats out emotion. I get very emotional about cars. And people who probably listen to this show, I love cars and I get emotional about it, but knowledge needs to beat that out. So,
well, if it's okay with you, I'd love to begin with some history of Sierra Pacific Federal Credit Union. It's intriguing.
Sure, and it probably is a little bit different. We're the longest lived institution in the state. Been around about 75 years, started during the Depression. And no, I wasn't there when it started. And we've been one of the fastest growing institutions in the state, although we don't advertise a lot. It's almost all of our growth is almost all through referrals. And we grow really because people like dealing with us. They bring their kids in, and we just, we move it along. We have about 3 branches here in Reno, one downtown near St. Mary's, one on Mill Street, and one at the south end of Reno. And we are owned, I think most people know, but some people don't. Credit unions are actually owned by their members, and a lot of our members know that. And I personally know a great deal of our members. We are governed by a volunteer board, and it's just a little bit different than a bank.
Well, and you mentioned that's how I found you, was word of mouth, but I just couldn't help but want to share your information and your resources with other people. And I have personal experience with Sierra Pacific, but for our listeners that may not have had an opportunity yet, could you describe the fundamental core values that distinguish you from other financial institutions?
Yeah, we do treat people like people, and we don't treat people like numbers. So we do sit down with people and try to understand where they're going. And in car purchases, typically people will come to us and ask, what they should be doing, and are they straining too much. A little story about my parents. After World War II, they had my oldest brother was a little baby, and first job. Father's working for the phone company. No one would give him a loan. Went to his credit union. His old car broke down. Went to the credit union, and they said, "We'll have a check for you tomorrow." And this was before the days of credit scores and things. So that's the kind of feel we like to have. And our decisions are made here locally. We make them, and it's frequently made by the person sitting in front of you. And we really, I think, kind of have a sense of mission. We've been very involved in the community. We believe in Northern Nevada, and these have been some tough times. And Northern Nevada, I think, is really coming back here. And we've been very involved. Our kind of personal mission is 2 of us have volunteered for 13 years for downtown Reno, and we've been helping develop downtown Reno as volunteers. And we're very jazzed about what's happening here and the future of our area.
Well, anyone listening can now understand why they're an invited guest on our show. And, you mentioned something about, people come to us and talk to us about cars before they go out and shop. What do you think they should consider when they're financing a vehicle?
Well, as a community financial institution, we typically deal with people in all of their financial needs. We look at their savings and their retirement, and we're really kind of committed to people's financial well-being. Making a good car purchase, on average, people make a car purchase every 3 years. If every 3 years they make the right decision, they don't buy too much car, they don't buy too little car, They buy what's comfortable for them, and they get the right vehicle. And again, this is where knowledge is really power. And I think credit unions are a good place to start. And I like to, why it's good to think it through first is, if I only use my TV remote once every 3 years, I would have a lot of trouble. So the car buying experience and the car financing experience tends to be an experience people don't do every day.
So say I came in to discuss buying a car with you. What suggestions would you make?
A couple suggestions. One is, again, don't strain on the payments. If you're buying a car and you have to try to string it out for 96 months and you're going to lie awake at night worrying about how you're going to make your car payments, you're probably not buying the right vehicle. So buy the right vehicle for your needs, and buy something that's going to be comfortable for you. And buy gap. Most people don't know what gap insurance is, but I can tell you it is really important. You buy a new car, and let's just say you're going to go buy a $34,000 car, and you're going to finance the taxes, and you're going to finance your maintenance agreement in with that. Let's say the total loan is about $37,000. 10 months later, it gets totaled. You're in winter, you're on an icy road, somebody hits you. The insurance company is only going to pay the value of the car. At that point, let's just say the value of the car is $29,000. You owe $33,000. You're going to be $4,000 short. They're going to hand you a check for $29,000. Gap insurance is very inexpensive. You can shop for it. The gap insurance pays the extra $4,000, so it pays off the loan. And it's usually only a couple of bucks a month.
Makes it so you can walk in and get your next car without paying for one you don't have any longer as
Yes.
well, just to
Exactly.
get out of that situation and protect your credit. And speaking about protecting your credit, we make an extraordinary effort to impress upon our customers and listeners the importance of protecting their personal information and to use extreme caution on whom they decide to share it with. Specifically in regards to excessive credit inquiries, how many credit inquiries do you make when I apply for a direct loan with you, and can I get a pre-approved loan with you?
The short answer is yes and yes. When you come in, we're obviously going to only pull credit once, and we only do it on, there are three main credit agencies, and we do it on one. They're all fairly similar, but we only do it on one, and then you can get pre-approved. And once you're pre-approved, you know what's going to be comfortable for you. So you know what you can go buy, and then you can go shop. Again, the car buying experience and the financing buying experience are two different things. You can go out there and you have the power of already being pre-approved.
Once you know exactly what your power is, then you can use it wisely. And you mentioned that these decisions, people live with them for 3 years. Take the time and make a good one. If you make a good one, you have a very enjoyable 3-year period. And if you don't, it can be uncomfortable. Any parting words of wisdom?
Well, we had talked about this when you were starting up the CarBuyer Advisor, and I know from having talked to you for years about your going and buying vehicles at the wholesale what you look at, and I want to say that I've been educated on that part of the business, and it is hugely important. I think you look at the tools that are available here. This is something new.
And we'll be talking about those. We do have instructional videos on our website where you can learn how to inspect a car like a pro and get the tools they use to do it too. Jim, I can only hope that by now people listening really understand what our show is all about. We as a business, just like yours, stand for consumer education. Knowledge is power. By simply being the most informed, prepared consumer you can be, and by supporting businesses like yours and not accepting less, we can make a difference together. The others will conform to consumer expectations or perish. And thank you so much for being with us here today and supporting not only our show, but our listeners and our community. And I mean that genuinely. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mitch.
Jim Hunting, President, Sierra Pacific Federal Credit Union.